Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 262. And I am going to do my best to keep this to an hour. We have at least 3 hours worth of topics. We have to recap our week 1 gambling. We have to do our week 2 gambling. I told you today, I was going to wait until today to talk about the Tyreek Hill stuff because I was hoping that in the hours and hours taken up by the Tyreek Hill conversation, someone else would make some of the obvious points. Unfortunately, I'm yet to see them, so I'll take that responsibility. We have that to do. Also, funny little story before we get started, Damonza. So, as you guys know, Lori Reyes, our former social media person, got a big-time job and left the company, and so we have a new social media person for this show, for First Things First, for all of it. And so one of the things they need, because I don't post show clips to my Instagram, is my Instagram login, right? So yesterday, I realized I don't have my Instagram login. I don't know my Instagram password. And it's on my phone, but I don't know what the password is. And for some reason, maybe because I'm verified, I don't know, that I can't go through the regular steps of figuring out how to get my password back. They're like, you got to reach out to Instagram directly. And I was just like, I don't like, it is going to be a pain in the ass. Do I really want, do I want to go through these things? And I'm like, no, yeah, let's go ahead and figure it out. And so I thought, so they email Instagram, it's got to do this, I got to do all these other things, I got to come up with a new email address, I don't know. Little did I know as I was going through that whatever headaches I was dealing with on Instagram were going to pale in comparison to some of my sports media colleagues and friends from yesterday. I don't even get a silver medal for Instagram issues from yesterday. My goodness gracious. What a kerfluffle we find ourselves in. My goodness, I have made multiple decisions, for good or for bad, about this show and about things we will and won't talk about. And it doesn't always lead to the quickest or biggest growth or, no pun intended, virality. But I do at times feel like this is, I'm kind of going to be the tortoise that wins the race. Like, I'm just going to let everybody else, wait, what happened? Wait, why is he trending? Wait, isn't it like 8 in the morning in Los Angeles? What's going on? All right, now to the show. Here's what missed the cut. NFL breaks viewership records. The Vikings reportedly felt bad for Daniel Jones, and I asked them to put this in there. Folks, please stop asking terrible questions. So, put this on the internet, please. This is a note to my colleagues in sports media. So, Damonza, I think you will agree with me here. So, over the last 18 to 24 months, sports Twitter has it's become even more of a cesspool of inaccurately or unfairly clipped short videos. And then some of those faceless, nameless aggregation accounts will post the video and be like, people are saying ... And there were 3 things that happened this weekend that it went viral thanks to one of the ML football or JK football or one of those faceless, nameless accounts that were 3-second or less clips. One was Aaron Rodgers already ignoring Nat Hackett because of a second and a half of Hackett talking to him and Rodgers looking to the side. Another one was, is Joel Bitonio, I think it was, won't accept a hand from Deshaun Watson because in the moment of him trying to get up off the field, it looks like he doesn't take Deshaun's hand. Oh, and the other one was Joe Burrow can't hold a water bottle. People are talking. Okay, all right, these are all dumb. Here is what I need to stop happening. Folks, stop asking the athletes about the dumb things fake people on the internet turned into a story. The guy on McAfee who wears, I think, a cowboy hat, and I don't know his name. I think he's a Patriots fan. He was like, Aaron, people on the internet are saying you and Hackett are already on the outs. Aaron has to respond. Deshaun, who I have no sympathy for in a million things, but he all of a sudden has to respond to this like, oh, people are you and this offensive lineman have an issue. And Joe Burrow, someone asked Joe Burrow yesterday, can you pick up a water bottle? Guys, stop taking these faceless, nameless aggregator accounts and bringing them and their faux controversy for engagement farming to the news conferences. I beg of you, okay? That's just my little media minute for everyone out there. Just because it's getting a lot of shares on Elon Musk's propaganda machine does not mean that Joe Burrow has to answer whether or not he can pick up a water bottle. The guy played a full football game. Now, is his wrist 100% healthy? I don't know. Can he throw the ball 60 yards? I don't know. Am I pretty confident that the guy can pick up a water bottle with his throwing hand that I saw him throw 30 passes with? Yeah, I'm pretty confident of that. These people. We're just getting dumber and dumber by the day, Damonza. Go ahead.
Yeah, he did struggle to pick it up a little bit. I'm not.
Oh my God, anything, not you too. He did not struggle to pick up the water bottle. You guys, you're just. Oh my God, the worst thing. One of the worst developments over the last 5 years is people being able to make money off Twitter. You thought it'd be good. It's like, oh, creators are gonna be able to create content. No, I'm there. It's not like there's a bunch of people that were like struggling painters who are now like painting, putting up videos of themselves painting. They're like, now I can pay rent. No, it's none of that. Instead, it's just these faceless aggregator accounts putting up a video that was like, man, Jamar Chase is washed, and it's a video of Tyler Boyd from 3 years ago, and they just put that up so people are like, that's not even Jamar Chase. That's not from yesterday. And it's so infuriating. All right, Damonza, speaking of Jamar Chase and the Bengals, let's get to Chiefs-Bengals.
Yeah, so Kansas City is looking very dominant with that new addition, Xavier Worthy. Cincinnati, on the other hand, struggling. Chase is still ramping up. You got Higgins hurt. And Burrow seems to be a little dinged up. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
But
you know what the producer's putting there? You know what I didn't even see this. The producer's putting the script, and Burrow can't hold a water bottle. My God. I'm gonna be the last sane person in America. But go ahead.
Yeah, so last week you said Cincinnati could lose week 2 to Kansas City and still feel confident in the offseason in January. But after an embarrassing loss to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after an embarrassing loss to the Patriots in week 1, do you think that's still the case?
I think it's still the case. And the Bengals are used to going 0-2, and I'm annoyed by the Joe Burrow coverage this week. Folks are acting, I think, dumber than they are when it comes, and I'm a Chiefs guy, right? I should dislike Joe Burrow, but I don't. I should dislike the Bengals. I kind of do. But it's guys other than Joe Burrow. Who was the guy yesterday? Is like, yeah, Xavier Worthy can just run straight. Okay, we'll see. But regardless. But folks are acting as if it's illogical that Joe Burrow is getting the benefit of the doubt. And I hear a lot of people saying, look at his numbers the last 10 games. What if it were Lamar? Guys, here is how we have always done sports talk and will always do sports talk. If you're a guy who in the biggest moments has not only come through, but has beaten your biggest rivals, you are going to get more margin for error than guys who haven't. Oh, keep that same energy for Joe Burrow you would keep for Josh Allen. Yeah, we would, except for the case that Joe Burrow against Allen and Mahomes in the playoffs is 2-1, including a blowout victory over Allen, and has played well in all of those games. And Allen against Mahomes and Burrow in the playoffs is 0-4. That's why we're not, quote, keeping the same energy. And when it comes to Lamar, we have seen Joe Burrow be excellent in multiple playoff runs, and we've never seen it from Lamar. Now, the further away we get from those playoff runs, the less that margin of error or benefit of the doubt exists, but we are just 1 year removed from it. Last year, they didn't make the playoffs. He was hurt. So we're a year and a game removed from it. So I don't understand why it would be as if, let me try to think of a cross-conference example. Let's say Matt Stafford started, had struggled for a month. And folks were like, man, you don't keep that same energy you have for Dak Prescott for Matt Stafford. It's like, well, I don't know. We saw him win a Super Bowl and be awesome. And we've seen the other guys struggle come the postseason. Like, that is how we do sports talk. Oh, man, keep that same energy you have for Joel Embiid for Kevin Durant. Like, no, I won't, actually. I won't. I won't keep that same energy. And I won't feel badly about it. And so this all of a sudden revisionist history of, man, maybe Joe Burrow wasn't that good all along. What the hell are you guys talking about? Now, is there a legitimate concern that this super rare wrist injury is going to change his trajectory? Damonza, I think you have that concern. That he doesn't, that he is still legitimately hurt, and the great Joe Burrow is not coming back, certainly this Sunday, or maybe not this year. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I saw that the injury was super rare. I don't think a quarterback's ever gotten it before, so they don't really know how to gauge it. So it is kind of tricky, so to speak. But yeah.
So that to me is fair. That to me of saying, oh, should we be worried about his ability to get back to himself this season? That's fair. But last year, and again, sometimes I think people can't even remember forget things that happened a long time ago, things that happened recently. Last year, Joe Burrow was coming off the best season of his career. 4,400 yards, 35 touchdowns. Or the best or second best season of his career. Year 2 and 3, he was awesome. And coming into the season, he suffered that calf injury. And the first few games of the year, he was awful. And then, starting week 5, this is what Joe Burrow did. 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, a 107 rating, and then he suffered the wrist injury and was done for the year. But so last year, we saw Joe Burrow not be 100% at the beginning of the year, play poorly, and then as soon as he started trusting his body, he got a little healthier, he was excellent again. So I don't know what it means for this week. Wilds is, obviously watched that Patriots-Bengals game super close, and on Monday morning was sounding the Joe Burrow is hurt alarm. Now, does that mean, again, because it's such a rare injury for a quarterback, we don't really have a context of, oh, it's going to take 3 weeks, going to take 6 weeks. I don't know. Here's what I will tell you. As a Chiefs fan, this is a dangerous game. This team is not afraid of Kansas City, and Burrow's not afraid of anybody. And so I think the Chiefs will win, and I think that the Chiefs beating the Bengals and the Ravens to start the year kind of takes a little bit of the zest out of the AFC playoff race, when in weeks 1 and 2, the Chiefs are at such a decided edge. Maybe it will mean the Texans, Damonza, your guy CJ, will be the team that they're going to, and they do play them later in the season. But I am not looking at how the Bengals played against the Patriots as an indication of who they actually are going to be this season. And I think there has been massive overreaction to that week 1 game. Go ahead. If you want to follow up on anything there.
Yeah, no. So if Kansas City wins this week, do you see them and San Francisco both being undefeated by the time their Week 7 matchup comes up?
All right. So I don't think the Niners are going to be. Let me look at the Niners schedule. I don't think the Niners are going to be undefeated come Week 7, but let me see who they have. So they're at the Vikings this week. We'll talk about that more later. At the Rams. That Rams game looked very tough, but the Rams are so banged up. Home for the Patriots, home for the Cardinals, at the Seahawks.
They could
be. I think they could be, but I think they're probably 5-1. I don't have a specific loss to pick for you, but I think they're probably 5-1. For the Chiefs, they have an early bye. So, home for the Bengals, then at the Falcons, at the Chargers, home for the Saints. They should be 5-0. At the Chargers is going to be a sneaky tough one. Because Harbaugh is just going to try to run the ball 45 times and he's not going to fall in the trap so many people fall into against the Chiefs, which is, we're down 7, now we have to abandon the run. He's not going to do that. He'll just keep doing it. And even though the Chiefs' run defense, in my opinion, is a potential. I think the Chiefs are the best team in football, but if we were ranking their strengths, I think run defense is probably the lowest on that list. All right, let's go to Caleb and CJ.
So Caleb's debut wasn't great. He obviously had 93 yards, but this week he's playing up against CJ Stroud and the Texans. I think he's got a lot riding on this one. I think he needs this game. So do you think he'll pull it off, or will you need to fire up the excuses you only give Trevor Lawrence machine?
Okay, so Trevor's in year 4, so it is fair to start holding him to just a regular standard. Not a young player, not a this. You've got to, Trevor is damn near, he's on his second, he just got his second contract. He is, and if Trevor had played poorly in week 1, I'd have told you. I thought he played well in week 1. I thought the Jags created a way to lose. The idea that we are going to do, huge game for Caleb and his trajectory in the second game of his career is, of course, silly and ridiculous, but I will take some ownership for it because I did pick them to go to the Super Bowl, and I have been putting him on Mahomes Mountain for 2 years, and I'm here to tell you he's going to play excellent. Now, I'm a little worried. Rome Odunze is probably not going to play, and Keenan Allen didn't practice on Wednesday. So we talked about how many weapons the Bears have. If 2 of their top 3 receivers are out, that could be tough. But I am really amazed by how many people, despite watching this player in college, after a rough first game of his career, are like, pump the brakes. I will not pump the brakes. I won't. I brought this up the other day, but John Elway, in the first game of his career, was 1 for 8 for 15 yards with an interception, no touchdowns. Peyton Manning, in the first game of his career, threw 3 picks. We can go, I think Troy Aikman, who was the other guy that I used as a more recent example? I can't even think of it. I used it on the show, but it doesn't matter. Caleb is going to be exceptional, and the worst game Caleb plays all year is going to have been that week 1 game. He thought he was going to be more escapable than he was. I think he got a little flustered. I think there were real butterflies, which is why I am so optimistic for this week, because they won despite that. So he hasn't really had to deal with too much backlash for an awful week 1 game because the team won anyway. And he can learn from it. So listen, the Texans are excellent. And this game is in Chicago. The weather's supposed to be good. I think Caleb will have over 200 yards. I think he'll have a couple touchdowns. I think he'll have his first turnover. If I were to project a Caleb Williams stat line for this game, it would be 240 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, or 1 lost fumble. 1 turnover is what I would say. I don't think that it is fair or anything we've ever done to even a number 1 overall pick quarterback to say, hey, second game of your career playing a guy a lot of people think is the league MVP this year or their pick for league MVP, go out, play him. And so now, do I think it's... I was asked this yesterday on TV. Let me ask you this, Damonza, because you love CJ, but I don't think you're anti-Caleb. If only these are the only 2 options, so door 1 or door 2, there's no other possibilities. Caleb duplicates what he did in week 1. Just can't complete a pass, nothing downfield, around 100 yards. Or Caleb outplays CJ on Sunday. What do you think is more likely of those 2?
I'd have to go with him outplaying him, but I don't think.
You don't think that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Right. So that's so that's what it purely because maybe one's a 5% chance and one's an 8% chance, with the vast majority of outcomes being somewhere between he's better than he was last Sunday, but not as good as CJ's going to be this Sunday. That, to me, is the more likely. But if you can only pick one of those 2, and everyone, Wilds, Brew, and Greg all disagreed with me. They act like it was insane for me to say that Caleb could do that. So I guess we'll see. I'm super excited for it. These are go ahead.
Speaking of the comparisons, who would you start your franchise with between Caleb and Stroud?
So listen, I think this will make people mad, but I think it's totally reasonable. I would pick Caleb because I think Caleb is going to be the second best quarterback in the league behind Mahomes in a few years. Let me put it like this. If you were to ask me before the season started, if I could have Caleb or CJ moving forward, who would I pick? I would have said Caleb. So changing that opinion because of one game would mean it wasn't even actually an opinion. It was just something I said. And now, so if for me, the starting a franchise moving forward rankings, I think the top 4 has to be Mahomes, Allen, Caleb, CJ, in that order. That's the 4 I would have. And the reason Joe Burrow is not on there is because even if this wrist injury is healed by Sunday, he has had so many injuries and he's older that I can't have him ahead of any of those 4 guys. But that's, that would be my list. So it's not an indictment on.
Rushmore?
Well, it's just if I were starting a franchise today. So Mahomes isn't old enough to where it's like, well, he's the best, but how long am I going to get him? You're going to get Mahomes for another 10, 12 years. Same with Josh Allen. And then after that, it gets trickier. After that, where does Lamar fall in? Where does Trevor fall in for me? I understand maybe not for others. I assuredly would probably take Anthony Richardson higher than most people because I'm just so fascinated by the guy. So there's... But yeah, to me, CJ would be one of my top 4 picks, but Caleb would be just ahead of him. All right, next.
All right, then. You gave props to the Lions after their big overtime win versus the Rams. Now they've got their playoff rematch versus Baker and the Bucks. Baker's moved ahead of the Prince and Caleb on Mahomes Mountain. If Baker proves it again this week, where is his ceiling this year?
So let me say this on the front end. I'm really worried about the Bucks this week because of their secondary injuries. I mean, so they lost. Antoine Winfield's hurt. 3 corners are hurt. So I do like the Bucks, and they played the Lions relatively tough in the playoffs last year. But whenever you have cluster injuries, It's what actually happened to the Rams in their game against the Lions. They suffered these cluster offensive line injuries, and they're just cooked. The Bucs secondary concerns me. Now, Baker's going on now a half season from the second half of last year, or this last quarter of last year into the playoffs to week 1 of A-level football. Now, do I think the Bucs can win a Super Bowl? I don't. Do I think the Bucs should be respected a little bit more by the general public? I do. But I think these injuries against the Lions and a Ben Johnson offense, that does concern me for this week. And it's one of the reasons the Bucs plus 7.5 is not going to be one of my picks, even though I think Baker is proving to be one of the more underrated players in the league. What's up? You look concerned about something, Damonza. I said there.
No, it's nothing. I didn't know they had that many injuries in the secondary. It just piqued my interest. That's all.
Was this part of maybe a Damonza teaser?
It might be somewhere.
It might be somewhere. Okay. All right. Well, it's not set in stone yet. The bets aren't made, so maybe we can discuss it. I'm not going to try to push you in any direction. No. And I gave you bad teaser advice last week, because last week, had you listened to me, you would have had the Bengals teased down to -2.5, and they lost outright. So you know what I mean? So I gave you bad teaser advice last week.
Processes.
All right, so let's go on to the next thing if we can.
So the Bills are going to Miami to play the Dolphins. Buffalo are the reigning September champions. They're always getting the dubs in September. Yes. Allen is 10-2 against the Dolphins as well. Miami's dealing with injuries and also the unfortunate Tyreek Hill situation. You called this the most important game for the Dolphins this year. So how do they rally?
I don't know that they do. And I actually don't want to spend a ton of time on this game right here, because this game is going to be one of my picks coming up in the B block. So I just kind of be redundant. But what I'll say is the reason I called it the most important game on their schedule is it is very, very hard to believe you can win the division if you don't at least split with Buffalo. And you play Buffalo in their building in November. So getting them in your building on a short week in September is as close to a must-win as you can have. Like, Miami's path to being a real contender is win the division, get at least one, maybe 2 playoff games in Florida, not have to deal with the snow or the frigid weather as much as possible. So they've got to win this game. Now, do I think they're going to win this game? We'll discuss that in picks. But I said on Tuesday I was going to wait to talk about the Tyreek thing. And I'm going to try to see if I can do this in 5 or 6 minutes, because I tend to go too long on these things sometimes. And I have heard a lot of people talk about this, and not to be rude, it has felt a lot like stuff we've already talked about and everybody knows. And it was a little frustrating for me, because I think there are 3 important, noteworthy angles that either have been totally disregarded or brushed over. So I'm going to try to quickly get through all 3 of those. And I think I'll probably surprise some folks with where I stand on some of this. And if we're going to put this on the internet, we can probably, start it right here. All right, so there's 3 things that came to me watching the Tyreek situation. The first one is going to be somewhat sympathetic to the police, and the other 2 are not going to be. First one is this. I was shocked at how few people recognized or acknowledged why cops justifiably are terrified at every traffic stop, and why having the windows down and why tinted windows are so scary for police officers. Part of the Tyreek thing was actually a gun story. Even though Tyreek obviously had no gun, it was nothing like that. But we have decided as a country, and certainly in states like Florida, that everyone and anyone's allowed to have a pistol or more. And so if you're an officer, walking up on a car has to be terrifying. No matter how well trained you are, no matter good, bad, or indifferent, because so many people have firearms. And so I think there is way too much, kind of apologies, and people let bad cops off the hook, and we'll get to that in a moment. But one part that I just think people fail to think about is, it is gotta be legitimately heart racing anytime an officer has pulled a car over and is walking up to the car. Particularly in places where, obviously there's guns everywhere, but particularly in places where it's totally legal for almost anyone to have a gun. So I have sympathy in those moments, and it's also why I think, as odd as it sounds, like the tinted window laws are necessary. Like, I get that, man. We have made the choice that we're just going to be the Wild West when it comes to firearms. So that part I totally understand. And if it wasn't for the proliferation of so many people having guns, I just don't think there would be instant at almost any traffic violation this real tension and almost anger and all of that. So that part I actually have sympathy for. The other two things, though, one is a math thing and the other is just how things have to work for us to be able to have a cohesive society. The number of people who, in their analysis, made sure to point out, well, Tyreek was rude. Tyreek could have handled that better. Tyreek should have, And the number of people who have just baked into their brains the acceptance of, oh, if you give a cop a shitty attitude, or talk back, or don't do exactly what they say, you might get roughed up, and you're kind of naive or dumb if you don't just accept and know that, is abhorrent. We have done the opposite math on the expectations on how police officers should treat the citizenry that we need to do, which is we hold them in our brains subconsciously to a lower standard than the barista at Starbucks, when we should hold them to the highest standard. And here is what I mean. You are not allowed to assault someone because they're rude to you. And the people least allowed to do that, in my eyes, are the people who we give the most power to. Any cop in America has the ability to ruin any of our days at any moment, at a minimum. Ruin our day. And the ruin our day is the smallest thing, and could, for some people, make them lose their job. For some people, real violence, for, different instances. But they're the only people. They're the only people who have the unilateral power to prevent you from going about your day. Detain you. Arrest you. Cuff you. Humiliate you. We have given them immense power that no one else in the society has. With that power comes immense responsibility. And you have kind of signed up. You got to take more shit with a smile on your face than anyone else. And we as a society have just decided, well, yeah, maybe that's how it should be, but we know that's not how it works. We all kind of know, you talk back to the wrong cop, you don't listen to him. It's not just that. You want to say you don't listen to him and you are going to get cuffed for failure to listen to a lawful command, fine, so be it. But that's not what that was. It was, well, you don't listen to him. We all know somebody there might put you in a chokehold. Somebody there might knee you in the back. Somebody there might put your face down on the pavement. And yeah, they shouldn't do it, but we all kind of know they might. That's bullshit. And that's not how this is supposed to go. If I go to Starbucks and I walk in there and what do you want? Mocha frap. And quick with it, toots. Like, geez, Louise, what do you do? What, are you talking to me like that? Yeah, I am. I am talking to you like that. Quickly. Dumb barista. Get a real job. You know what nobody thinks is okay? For that person to come across the counter, put me in a chokehold, and put me face down on the store. No, it's not. Even though, in my mind, actually, that would be more acceptable than a cop doing it. That's just a regular person with a regular job. But if I walk up to a police officer and say, hey, say some awful things, make fun of them, do whatever, kind of bait them, and then that cop threw me in cuffs and threw me on the ground, everyone would be like, well, you kind of had it coming. That's the opposite of how this is supposed to go. When you are a public servant with this type of power, there are things that you must be better than. And so a lot of folks are just reflexively being like, Tyreek should have known better. Yes, sure, not his job. Not his job. And here's the last point. And this is the one that where I'm going to do some math here, folks. Because the Miami Dolphins in their statement included these words. The vast majority of police officers. The vast majority. We hear this all the time. Whenever there's one of these things, everyone, even we hear two things. We hear the police union come out and be like, perfect. It's perfect stop. I see nothing wrong. And you know what I mean? Of course, fine. But then we hear the people who are trying to delicately and lightly criticize the cops be like, we know the vast majority are good, but this guy was bad. Okay, let's just do some real statistical regressions here, okay? What do we think vast majority means? Majority is 51%. So vast majority. Is that 90%? Is that 90%? Is the vast majority? Okay, let's call it that. So I watched that video. Yeah, there were escalating levels of badness by a couple officers, but nobody stopped it. Just like the Scotty Scheffler thing. Nobody stopped it. There's 5 officers there. So if the vast majority of police would never do anything like this, but we have 5 involved or didn't do anything, so what are the odds of that? Well, it's 10% chance that one of them would. But now we got to go 10% of 10% of 10% of 10% of 10%. You know what? Let's be kinder. Let's say vast majority means 80%. So there's a 20% chance. So let's do the math, kids. One of the 5, 20% chance. 2 of the 5, 20% of 20%. Now we're down to 4%. 3 of the 5, 20% of 4%. Now we're down to 0.8%. 4 of the 5, 20% of 0.8. Now we're down to 0.2%. 5 of the 5, 20% of 0.2%. So now we're down to 0.04%. Is that your guys' experience? Is your guys' experience that when either you have had encounters or when we see these videos that there is a 1 in 2,500 chance that if there's 5 officers around and one starts roughing someone up, that none of them will stop it? You think that's a 1 in 2,500, or is it more the other way? Which is, you are shocked whenever you see a video and there is one cop who is wildly out of control and another officer then actually comes in and stops it. And that is where I will talk to the police directly. Because, no, I don't hate all cops. No, I don't think all cops are bad. No, none of that. What I do think is this. There is a total inability for the cops who want to do the right thing and keep the trust of the community and treat people with dignity and respect to publicly combat the high school bullies who signed up for the job just to be able to do exactly what that guy did to Tyreek Hill. There is such a culture of protectionism and brotherhood that if it is the vast majority wouldn't do that, those folks don't feel able to stop the minority, if we want to call it that, that does it. And that is a systemic problem. And so I said put this on the internet. I don't even actually, I've changed my mind. We don't even have to tweet this out. It can be on our YouTube page and people that are watching right now can hear it. I don't feel like arguing with people. It's an election season. There's all the bots. I don't really feel like doing it. But it is really remarkable to me that we have all just kind of come to accept that what happened with Tyreek isn't that and folks are like, man, it could have gone worse. He's lucky. Like, if he weren't Tyreek Hill. And again, general good rule of thumb, treat people respectfully. Understand, people, have empathy for others. Recognize, maybe he wants my window down because he is scared, because there is guns. You recognize jobs are hard. That is a general good rule of thumb to live by for all of us in all circumstances. But it is perverse that the people we give the biggest leeway to when it comes to getting their feelings hurt or offended and reacting with violence are the people who should have the least. Because they are the people we give the most power to. That's not the way things are supposed to go. And when they do go that way, there should be an expectation that somebody is going to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not what we do here. We're here to serve the public good. And typically, that's not what I see. So, that to me should have been the conversation. Instead, we kind of had the same old conversations about race and policing, which, by the way, I'm wearing the shoes right now, actually. If only there was a famous football player that once upon a time tried to talk about race and policing, I wonder what would have happened to his career. We could have that, and about the respectability of, well, just comply. Just pay attention to the orders and everything will be fine. Or we can have real conversation about why cops are afraid at traffic stops, understandably, about whether or not we should hold our police officers to a lower, higher, or the same standard we would hold a salesperson at H&M, and whether or not we think that in order to be considered, quote, one of the good cops, you have a moral obligation to in real time step in when one of the bad cops is doing what happened to Tyreek. Just my thoughts. Our gambling show next. What's right? Welcome back in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 262. Damonza says to me during the break, Pops, you got community noted on Twitter. So I did. I got an alert. One of your tweets has been, updated by community notes, which is there for like misinformation, essentially, right? And I'm like, what the? I'm like, impossible. I was like, I don't put out fake news. Like, what could I have gotten community noted for? So I tweeted after the Jets opening game. I quote tweeted Wilds about how it's now been over 1,000 days and 24 games since Aaron Rodgers threw for 300 yards. And I wrote, for context, the last time Aaron Rodgers threw for 300 yards, Dan Campbell had 0 wins as the Lions head coach. Right? I think I even said it on the show on Tuesday. Yeah. So evidently I was wrong by a week. So Dan Campbell got his first win December 5th, 2012. And Rodgers last threw for 300 December 12th, 2012. 2021. But I'm going to get community note on my own podcast. So it was Rodgers last did it December 12th, 2021. Campbell's first win was December 5th, 2021. So I got it off by a week. But of all the things to be community noted for, and also I mean,
they stickled you on that one.
No, that's fine. I put out a fact. It was wrong. I don't know the full community note process, but I would say is I don't think the facts and information on Twitter right now are up to a high enough standard where, Nick Wright's sports tweets that are 98% correct but a little bit off. You know what I mean? That really does feel like we have cleaned this entire house so much it's spotless. Time now to dust the baseboards.
To do.
When in reality, you have a toilet overflowing with sewage and you've got paint peeling off the walls. So I don't know about that, but whatever. All right, let's do our week 1 picks recap, Damonza, before I get to the games of the week.
Yeah, so you went 2-3. Just below 500, so you're starting off all right. A little far from 5-0, but Kansas City -3 versus Baltimore. That was a hit.
Winner. That was a winner, and I almost got screwed on it because they were going to go for 2. If the likely touchdown counts, they go for 2, and I can't win the bet. Green Bay +2.5 at Philly. I like my side of that. You know what I mean? And I almost got really lucky on that one because it looked like for a moment Philly might not kick that field goal at the end, that they might go for it on 4th down at the 1-yard line. And if they don't get it, then they probably just win by 2. Cincinnati -8.5 against New England. No chance the whole time. Dallas +2.5 at Cleveland. No doubt the whole time. And then Rams-Lions. I would like to open a sports book. No, that's not true. I would like there to be a sports book out there that has a policy of, if you bet in the NFL an underdog of greater than a field goal and the game goes to overtime, you win. Can that be a policy? I had the Rams getting points. I had them +3.5 on our picks. I had them +4.5 in real life money because the line moved. The game's tied at the end of 60 minutes, and I lose. So many things had to happen for me to lose that one. That one's painful. That one was the painful one because if the Lions just, whatever, doesn't matter. I lost. I'm 2-3. 2-3 was the story of last year. It's not going to be the story of this year. Before, Damonza, I go to my picks, I want to talk about a couple games that were attractive to me, but I couldn't quite pull the trigger. So, the Raiders getting 8.5 in Baltimore. I did like the Raiders side of it, but I also Aiden O'Connell, or Gardner Minshew, pardon me, against Baltimore. It just feels like it could get out of hand. But I was flirting with that one. The Vikings getting 5 at home against San Francisco. That there's San Francisco on a short week, a bit of a letdown. They're traveling. There are a lot of kind of gambling principles that say the Vikings are a pick I should make. The one, this is one of my problems with sports betting compared to poker, which is in poker, even if it doesn't feel right, if I know from a kind of systemic standpoint, this is the right move, something I've got to, oh man, I got to interrupt myself. Speaking of poker, I have amazing news. I have super exciting news. Did you see my tweet? I forgot to tell you this. I am, okay, let me give some background. Back in the day, poker heyday, there was this show called The Big Game. And the concept of The Big Game was you had 5 poker pros and 1 just civilian who came in and played in a 6-handed game. And the civilian, won an entry essentially and would start with a 50 grand, something like that, that they was given to them as part of the win. And then whatever money profit they made, they got to keep. And it was a contest about, and so you play, 100, couple hundred hands, whatever it is, 150 hands against the pros. If you lose, it's not your money. If you win, you get to keep it. And then there was a big season-long contest, all of it. So it was such a cool concept, such a cool show. So they brought that back, and you can watch it on the PokerStars YouTube page. So they already did season 1. Season 2, Damonza, Rob Gronkowski's one of the players, and guess who else is?
Mahomes.
Oh yeah, me, buddy, Mahomes.
Oh.
Me, I'm one of the players.
Wait, hold on.
It's me and Gronk.
So you said he was one of the players. I thought there was going to be another player that you were playing with, but yes, no, I figured you would be in the game.
No, it's So Gronk,
is he poker savvy?
You know what? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing that's going to be I'm guessing that's going to be the player I target. And so so this is it's November. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. So I'm doing a whole thing. And I'm super excited for it. So Gronk and I will be playing against the loose cannon, which is whatever player gets picked, and then other pros. And people there's a lot of cool stuff happening actually. Because part of me doing it, I'm doing stuff with the North American Poker Tour, Las Vegas with PokerStars. So that from November 1st to like the 10th, I think, there is their main event. And I'm going to be giving out gold passes, which is a pass to the main event, which is worth over $5 grand, flight, stays, all this stuff to get to Vegas. I'm giving those out over the next, couple weeks, month or so. And a chance to be the person that gets to play in that game. So this literally got announced an hour ago. So I've known this. And if you heard me say any of this and you were like, oh, I never watched The Big Game, I'm pretty sure all of this is on PokerStars YouTube page. But yeah, I mean, and when I play will be in that first week in November in Vegas against Gronk. So I do have to check and see.
Poker with Gronk.
Is that going to be embargoed? When I say embargoed, can I come on here the very next day and say if I crushed him, or do I have to wait till it airs? I don't know the answer to that. I do know that if you want to, I'll be tweeting more about this, tweeting and Instagramming, because again, I still have my Instagram, tweeting and Instagramming about it. But yeah, you're a poker fan, and it's just a really cool concept because it's totally amateur against the pros and then some celebrities, and then me, someone that they're putting in the celebrity category, but I'm actually in the shark poker player professional category, and I am going to crush. I cannot wait. I'm going to win so much money. It's going to be so amazing. What I was saying though was, you should maybe come out.
Yeah.
Meet me in Vegas. That could be fun.
Out tickets.
Maybe meet me in
What's up?
Vegas. Well, that's a separate thing. That's for the play. I'm not saying you should play in the main event. What I'm saying is you should maybe come out and hang out with me in Vegas. Yeah. 100%. But regardless, what I was trying to say was, in poker, I can kind of stick to, oh man, I don't love this, but this is the right play. In sports betting, I have trouble with that. So I'm going to give you a great example. Teams in week 1 that get blasted, just blasted, and then are getting huge points in week 2, over the last 20 years are like something like 48-12 against the spread. Like an insane number. Like, cover, I think, like more than 75% of the time. Yeah. The team that checks all those boxes is the Panthers this week. They're at home. They're Panthers +6 at home against the Chargers. Every sharp gambling rule says that's a must fire, and I just can't bring myself to do it. I just can't bring myself to bet on them. So I know I should, but I can't do it. All right, Damonza, let's get to the games I actually am betting because this show's going too long. I said it was going to be an hour. It's already been an hour. We haven't even done our picks yet. And we have an F1 minute. And you have your teaser. We have so much to do. Go.
So, first off, you've got Buffalo +2.5 at Miami.
Yeah, until the Dolphins can beat the Bills, I'm just going to... You're giving me points. This is a must-fire on Buffalo. The Bills crushed them last year, early in the year when the Dolphins were rolling. They then beat them again late in the year when the Dolphins were, kind of falling apart. I think there's a significant psychological edge. Yes, Miami's defense is banged up, and of course Tyreek is terrifying, but I didn't think Miami's offense looked that good in week 1. I thought Miami was very fortunate to win that football game. There's the Etienne fumble, pardon me, and then obviously the Tyreek play, which isn't like a fluke play, he's Tyreek Hill. But Allen is 11-12 straight up against Miami. He's 4-2-1 against the spread against Tua. Oddly, Thursday night home teams have been bad against the spread over the last 5 years. And I think there is a potential... a bit of a letdown spot for Miami because last Sunday was there's the Tyreek stuff and then the big comeback. Tyreek during the week is reacting to all that. I'm getting 2.5 with a team that I think is going to win outright. I'll take Buffalo plus the 2.5. All right, next one, Damonza.
You got Indy -3 at Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean... if you're laying less than a field goal with the opportunity to bet against Malik Willis, it's just, to me, I just have to do it. Malik Willis, God bless him, can't throw the football. And so I know that the Packers
Malik Willis is followed by God bless him, but it's kind of...
well, I feel badly.
It's tough.
I don't want to, he's a developmental player that hasn't developed, that Green Bay acquired hoping he could sit for a year, learn their system, be in the meetings, get him in the building, and instead a week in, he's got to start a football game. Yeah, and so I don't, this might be his only start. The Packers are acting like Jordan Love might play this week. Now, I don't buy that at all. If Jordan Love plays, obviously, this line shifts massively, but I also think if they officially rule him out, that the line moves against me. So I'll just lay the 3 right now. I think it would be insane to play Jordan Love this week.
Yeah.
Like, that maybe you can play him a week from now, but I think you probably sit him the next 2 weeks. You have the Colts, then you have the Titans, and if there's anybody Malik Willis can beat in a football game, it's Will Levis, his former teammate. But the Colts and Anthony Richardson -3. I like their running game. I like their Anthony Richardson's howitzer of an arm. I think Green Bay's defense, it could be a real problem for them this year, and we know their offense is going to be a problem in this game. Now, with that said, maybe they just go huge Josh Jacobs game. I mean, that is what they're going to do. I still don't mind laying the 3 points, and so... Indy -3 is a bet I like. Next.
Seattle -3.5 at New England.
All right, so listen. This is going to be the square side of the bet. See, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that says if you're going to bet it, you got to bet New England. It's the dreaded West Coast team going all the way east, playing at 1 o'clock. So that, 10 a.m. to their bodies. That part's not great. Seattle's interior of their offensive line did just give up 2 sacks. Two safeties in one football game. New England's defense is good. You're getting a team at home getting more than 3 points. I understand all of that. The reason I am on Seattle is because I am not letting week 1 change fundamentally my big picture thoughts on the season. Now, at some point they could change.
It's the sharper side of the bet instead of the
well,
square.
Okay, maybe. You mean because people are going to be overreacting to the Patriots?
To New England beating Cincinnati last week, yeah.
So maybe
3.5
I guess
is
that's
a little number for Seattle. I feel like if you know what Seattle is, and I don't know, yeah.
I think you make a good point. Listen, what I was going to say there was one of my thoughts going into the year was the Patriots are one of the 4 worst teams in football. I still believe that. They are playing a team that is going to be, alive for the playoffs throughout the year. You know what I mean? Seattle's not a great team, but they're not a bad team. So even though I hate the laying more than a field goal for a West Coast team coming east for a 1 o'clock game, I think Seattle is pretty good everywhere except for on the interior of their offensive line. And while Christian Gonzalez might be able to take away 1 receiving option for Seattle, Seattle's got 3 legitimate receiving options in DK, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, and obviously Lockett. So I'll lay the 3.5 with Seattle. Next.
Big cash at 17. Chicago +6 at Houston.
What do you mean? Oh, I made that mistake with the Cincinnati game.
Cover at 17, 20 points.
20, I think definitely. 17, 13 would cover there. All right, so I've got Chicago getting 6 at Houston. I just don't think these 2 teams are that big of a difference talent-wise. Now, I got to watch the Chicago injury report. I understand that. But I think Chicago's defense is better than Houston's defense. I think Houston's offense is better than Chicago's offense. I think that this should be Houston by 4. It's Houston by 6. So I'll take Chicago plus the points. I think Caleb is going to bounce back to a degree. Also, I could be wrong. I'm going to look this up. I don't think CJ, as great as he was last year, I don't think they blew a lot of teams out. And I understand that 6 points isn't necessarily a blowout, but to cover, you got to beat teams by more than a touchdown. This is something I should have looked up beforehand, but Houston's wins last year were, I'm just going to go in reverse order. They won by 4. They beat Tennessee by 23. They won in overtime by 3 against Tennessee. They beat Denver by 5. They beat Arizona by 4. They beat Cincinnati by 3. They beat Tampa by 2. They beat New Orleans by 7. And then early in the year, to be fair, their first 2 games of the year first 2 wins were blowouts. They beat Jacksonville by 20 and Pittsburgh by 24. I just think this is a 27-24 game. I think it is. I think that there were more warning signs than people wanted to maybe acknowledge on Houston's defensive side of the ball in that game against Indy. When Anthony Richardson, again, only completed 9 passes, but it was for over 200 yards. Indy scored, I think, touchdowns on 3 straight second-half possessions. So I'm getting 6 points when I think the 2 teams are similar caliber teams. I think Caleb bounces back. So here it is. Stroud 3-6 against the spread as a favorite. They win, but they don't really blow people out, since they've been this team people believe in. So I'll take Chicago plus the 6. You hate that one, I think, Damonza. Correct?
No, I understand what you're saying. I do think there are pros and cons to the Chicago's defense, obviously, and Houston's offense. So I do think it's kind of even. So with the team getting more points, I would be more comfortable going Chicago +6 than Houston -6. So,
okay, cool. All right, last one.
Atlanta +6.5 at Philly.
All right, so this is another one where I'm not going to overreact to week 1. I don't think Atlanta is cooked. I don't think Kirk Cousins is just going to be the worst quarterback in football this year. And I think that it was a terrible week 1 for them. I think that they will be competitive. And I thought Philly had a lot of warning signs in that game. Now, again, it's Kirk Cousins in prime time. I understand. Nobody likes that. But I think because of that, this is a game. I'll tell you this much, Damonza. I have to put my picks in here today. So +6.5. I will not bet this today. Because if the line moves against me and all of a sudden I'm only getting 6, I'll deal with it. I think there's a real chance it moves for me. And I'm getting 7, which is by Monday night, which is obviously a huge, huge number. I think Atlanta and Philly are similar caliber teams. I know it didn't look that way in week 1. And so this is a similar situation as the one that we discussed earlier.
Seattle and New England? Sorry.
No. It's Chicago-Houston, where I think they're similar caliber teams, and I'm getting 6 points. And so both teams, it should be noted, are on... Wait. Okay, yeah, both teams, I guess, will be on somewhat extended rest because it's Monday night. Philly's on much more extended rest because they played Friday, while Atlanta played Sunday. Cousins, oddly, has played his best football of his career against Philly. He's 7-4 against the spread against the Eagles. Now, that also does date back to his time in Houston. I understand that, but it's also some games in Minnesota. I think Atlanta's offense is going to be able to move the ball. I don't trust that Philly defense, and I think at this point, Jalen Hurts is in the he's going to throw us one category. So, real quick, my 5 picks. I've got 3 dogs, 2 favorites. I'm going with Buffalo. I'm doing all the primetime games. Buffalo +2.5 at Miami, Chicago +6 at Houston, Atlanta +6.5 at Philly, and then Indy -3 at Green Bay, and Seattle -3.5 at New England. All right, Damonza, time for your teaser. Week 1 didn't go the way we had hoped, sadly, but go ahead.
Yeah, last week I had Green Bay +9.5 at Philly. That cashed. My guy Jordan Love got it done.
Yeah.
And then we had Washington +10.5 at Tampa Bay. And Baker was getting real surgical. It was just unfortunate.
Bake Show cooked you up.
Yeah,
yep.
No,
They've got the colors wrong on that. Your Green Bay was the winner. Your Washington was the loser, but that's fine. You're 0-1. 0-1
so,
you can deal with. This week, what are we looking
bye
at?
Week. This week we've got another 2-team 7-point teaser at -150.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm being told you called your shots. Can we do this?
Yeah,
so Damonza called his shot last night.
So I went on and said I'm winning
morning.
the teaser, and the guy cooked me. He can't.
What did he say? First time for everything?
Yeah, I said that was unprovoked, and then he went on to say that he wouldn't touch my teasers with a 10-foot pole.
Donovan Weber. I mean, the guy makes fair points. I just got to say. I mean, the guy. You got to at some point. You got to win for the people.
Hey, thank you for putting the chip on my
shoulder,
shoulder, man. So this year we've got. Not this year. This week we've got Dallas from whatever they were at plus to +1.
-6.
Yeah, -6 to +1, and That was not what I saw it as on my phone. And then we've got
So I'm going to tell you what happened here, just so you know. When you put these in, I think both lines moved a half point in your favor. So you got Dallas. So you have Dallas getting a full point, and Tampa. Oh, that's why you made getting 14.5. That's why you made those faces about their secondary.
100%. But at 14 points, there will be a lot of room for backdoor covering. I'm sticking with it. I think that they'll win. I think that they can win the game. And if they do lose, I gotta assume that they can lose by less than 2 touchdowns.
Listen, if you think they can win the game, then this is fine. Dallas +1. They're at home. They've won. If you take out the playoffs, 16 straight home games. I think that's good. Obviously, Tampa getting 14.5. I'm going to give this teaser a B. I believe in you. I think you're going to win. I'm glad it doesn't go against any of our picks. All right, what's the offer this week? Quickly, because we are way late and I got to get to work.
The offer this week is called the enemy of my enemy. You had Pittsburgh and Miami missing the playoffs. They both started out 1-0. It'd be nice for you if they lost this week, huh? But are you willing to bet on the two teams you can't stand to win a season-long bet? Denver plus Buffalo moneyline parlay at plus 406.
No, I'm not going to take that because I'm not going to bet on Bo Nix. I'm going to stay away from from Bo Nix for now. So no, I'm not going to take that offer. I appreciate the offer. We're now 0 for 2 on me accepting the offer.
Just not taking offers.
All right, so no, I will at some point. All right, I hate to do this. Once again, we're not going to be able to get to listener questions today. This is what we're going to do. We are going to take a quick break, come back, and just play for you guys the F1 minute from Sierra. She's back from being out of town. F1 season is in full force, but this is the last you're going to see from me. Damonza, you are going to, you're going to introduce the F1 minute, and then you're going to say goodbye to the audience because I'm going to be late for the TV show. Show went too long. It said it was going to be an hour. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. Good luck to everyone with their picks. Good luck to everyone this weekend. I will see you guys on TV at 3 p.m. Take a quick break. Damonza and Sierra coming back. What's right?
All right, welcome back. It's What's Right with Nick Wright. It's Damonza Bird, and it is time for Sierra's F1 Minute. Let's get it.
The F1 circus is back, and this weekend we're going to be in Azerbaijan, Baku, for another round of racing. I'm Sierra, and this is F1 Minute. So, last time we spoke, we were talking about the Italian Grand Prix, and it turns out Charles Leclerc won that race. So it was a big weekend for the Tifosi fans and for the Ferrari team. The top 5 winners of that weekend, though, it was Charles, then Oscar, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, and then Lewis Hamilton in 5th place. Now, notice how I did not mention a Red Bull name at all. That's because Max came in 6th place, and then his teammate Checo Perez came in 8th place. As far as the weekend is concerned in Baku, there is faith for Ferrari, and I say this because Charles has a very good history here. He's won pole position consecutively since 2021. So in that regard, there's hope for them. But he's not the only one with like a reputation here, because Checo Perez has won here twice, and he's the only driver to win here multiple times. So he won in 2021, and then he won again in 2023. But that does not mean he's going to win in 2024. Because with like Red Bull's performance is starting to dwindle here. I just want to mention that Max has not won a race since June, and we're in September. So in that, like, they're going down, and McLaren is on the come up right about now. So with that being said, there's no guarantee that they're going to win a race at all this weekend, but there's also no guarantee that they're going to win the Constructors' Championship, because McLaren only needs to outscore them by a measly 8 points. Now, I call this measly because at the Italian Grand Prix, they outscored Red Bull by 22 points. So with that being said, Red Bull will be dethroned from their first place position in the Constructors' Championship this weekend. And they've been in that spot since 2022. So it's going to be a pivotal weekend for McLaren and Red Bull. Because Charles has done so well for the past 3 years, I think he's going to do well again. And, the momentum's going to be pumping from the last race weekend, so he's going to be in the right mindset, So I'm going to put him in third place. And I'm going to do a double McLaren podium again, a 1-2. But here's the thing. You know who determines who's going to be in 1, who's going to be in 2? It's McLaren. From their team orders, that is who's going to determine who's in first and who's in second. Because if they choose to prioritize the fact that Lando may or may not have a shot at winning the Drivers' Championship, then Lando should be winning. But if they don't, and they kind of willy-nilly it, and they're like, race each other, then Oscar could be in first. I don't know. It depends on what they choose to prioritize. But I do see it a McLaren 1-2, and I'm going to leave Charles at third. If you have nothing to do this Sunday morning, you should definitely watch the race. It's going to be on 8 a.m. sharp Eastern time. But until then, I'll talk to you guys another time. The F1 circus is back.
All right, well, let's go McLaren. Sounds like we've got a race on our hands coming this Sunday. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good Thursday. Enjoy your weekend.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor. Go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish. 10:35, 10:40, it sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.